everybody. Thank you all for coming. My name is Irina Vasco.
Dylan Devon.
And I'm Portia Amaya.
And we are Team 1. We are pleased to present to you today our analysis and findings for the highest and best use of the property located at 1701 West Cass Street.
That might be the wrong remote. It's like showing these.
No worries. We can do it then right here. So there we go. So at 1701 Cass, we envision a 4-story apartment complex. Our philosophy is that an area will eventually develop into what it was meant to be. With a prime location and limited through traffic, this area is perfect for residential development. In fact, in January 2023, Forbes Advisor rated Tampa as the #1 destination for young professionals, families, and retirees to live. Additionally, Tampa's increasing popularity brings about the demand for housing.
So if we take a look at the current state of the property, we can see that it is definitely in disrepair. It is the site of a former taxi cab company. So as Tampa said goodbye to the yellow cabs and hello to rideshare apps, this service was no longer needed. So taking into account that this parcel is about 0.9 acres, there's definitely a lot of potential and a lot of space that we can utilize.
Additionally, we found that with the current state of the project, we thought we'd give a generous value for how much it's going to be purchased for, which will help the financial analysis, assuming that with the operation no longer existing of the taxi cabs, the Rockwell will be able to get below fair market value, which we priced at $2.5 million.
So when we take a look at the surrounding community as well, we can see that it does already have an established, thriving community, which is wonderful. And we want to see how we can add to this. How can we become a part of this community? So taking into account too that this particular area has very low through traffic, we didn't think that this was necessarily the right place to have, let's say, a retail development or something that would require a lot of people driving by to be able to drive business. But we did know that it has an established community. So who would this appeal to? Families, young professionals, students. This is a great place to have a residential development. It also has an ease of access to work and play, which is wonderful as well, and an up-and-coming neighborhood that people are calling NoHo or North Howard. Taking a look also at the location and characteristics, currently it's zoned for GMU 24, and we're proposing that it be converted to PD-A, so that would be Planned Development Alternative. We are making this assumption by looking at what the neighboring parcels have already been converted to. So the neighboring townhomes as well as the neighboring apartment complexes that are also nearby have been converted to that. So we believe that the municipality of Tampa would be more accepting of our proposal.
For title and ownership, currently 1701 Cass is owned by Cass Tree Group LLC, which is under contract by Rockwell. The northwest parcels or southwest parcels are already owned by Rockwell, totals 0.33 acres. With our 1701 Cass, which was the taxi cab, that was 0.9 acres. And then we also proposed buying the northwest parcels from Annalyn and Julian Bird, which totals also 0.33 acres, which would be 2 separate parcels, and that would be an assumed $1 million purchase price.
So here we are looking at a map of Tampa in relation to our target property. So the star on the map is going to show where our target property is, and then these are things that are within a 10-minute driving radius of our property. So as you can see, Tampa General is close by. It's about a 7-minute drive depending on traffic, of course, Tampa traffic. Also, there's just the downtown area, and the arrow up there in the corner is actually pointing to where the UT campus is located, which is about 6 minutes away from our target property. So this could be appealing again to young professionals, families, commuters, even people that might be stationed at the McDill Air Force Base. So taking all of these things into account, we can see who our potential clientele could be. This is the aerial view of the parcel. So highlighted in red is the parcel for 1701 Cash Street.
With that, that's our 0.9 acres. This all totals to be 1.56, ideal for a multifamily of 162 units. We propose that this frontage of road is going to be the lobby area, which you'll see furthermore in a moment. And this over here has already been purchased. The two on the bottom left, which is 1711 through 1713 Cash Street, were purchased together a couple years back for $500,000. With that remaining 0.11 was $350,000. And those up there owned by the Bird family totals also in 0.33 acres, which will be assumed to be purchased at $1 million, totaling in $4,350,000 for the 1.5 acres. And with this is a quick vision of what we're thinking of in terms of an apartment complex right on the corner of Cass Street and Rome. On the inside, we're gonna have a nice patio, pool, amenities area, nice grill and chill, and furthermore, this is a 3-mile radius of the Tampa area, total population. We have a nice growth over the past 10 years. It's only gonna continue to grow, with this being one of the #1 cities to move to. With that, here's a 1-mile radius of the area, with growth that fits in with our potential plan development, with about 40% of the development units will be able to house 2 people, which can also be used for an office rather than a family of 2. And we'll have about 262 people able to house inside of these units, which meets the growth.
All right, now let me provide you with some market analysis. According to our linear regression model of the neighboring properties, 71% of the variation in sales price can be explained by the square footage of the property. So in other words, higher valued properties have more residential area. Also, note that among the neighboring properties, the average asset listing is priced higher than for previously sold properties. This can be attributed to the appreciation of property over time, as well as other economic factors such as inflation. But we chose to focus on the former, namely the appreciation of the property value, to affirm our decision to develop this land. Next, we present you the summary statistics for square footage and sales price. So as you can see, the square footage ranged from 1,019 to 4,085, with 50th percentile and the mean being fairly close at 1936 and 1952. Additionally, the sales price ranges from 370,000 to almost 2 million. So with the 50th percentile being at 700,000 and the mean being about 100,000 above that. Lastly, notice that the distribution of sales prices is skewed right, so that the majority of the properties that sold cost less than 10 million, with an outlier of 40 million, and which would require further investigation using advanced statistical modeling.
So taking our brief market analysis into consideration, how can we evaluate our proposed development? So some of the strengths that our development has is, of course, going to be the growing population of Tampa. So Tampa's population is growing, they're going to need housing. This is a need that we can meet by providing an apartment complex. And a lot of people are looking to rent now rather than own. just based on the interest rates. Some people are getting bought out of the market. So giving them a rental option inside of a desirable location is definitely going to be a strength for this development. One of the weaknesses is going to be the high construction cost. That is definitely going to be something to consider and maybe to be further analyzed and just evaluated in terms of is this the best approach? Another concern could be the tenant overturn or vacancy. How are we going to ensure that we have the maximum profits that we can get from our rental income? An opportunity is possible partnerships that we could have, partnering with the University of Tampa, maybe getting referrals from their graduate students, from incoming students, from people who are relocating to work on the MacDill Air Force Base, people who are coming to work at Tampa General. So there's many opportunities there for partnership. There's also the opportunity for market expansion. Finally, the threats that we have is competition. We will not be the only development in the area or the only choice of apartments that people could choose. So how do we set ourselves aside from the competition? How do we make them our first choice? Another possible threat is the unstable market. We can't predict what the market is going to do. We can do our very best, which is why we decided to make sure that our numbers are very generous or reserved depending on the situation.
With that, we have our proposed product analysis. This is the proposed apartment complex. Here we have overwhelming frontage. That is going to be our lobby. Existing alleyway, we don't think we'll have a problem building over it. And in fact, it's going to feed into our pool grill area. This is going to be 4 stories high, which meets the 60-foot height regulation with about 70 parking stalls. Usually a parking stall is about 9 by 8 feet. We did these 10 by 10. And on top of that, that will be four stories high, which is 280 parking stalls, which meets the 1 parking stall per a person in the apartment complex, which was actually 232, with about 40% of these being for 2 bedrooms. The FAR is 3.0, which meets with the area in the middle carved out for the pool grill area. And this is self-observatory. Our proposed rent per unit, which is around fair market value based off of other comps in the area, bringing our total annual rent revenue to $3,867,600. Summary of our findings. So here, our hard costs: construction, about $150 per square foot; parking garage, $50 per square foot. Our soft costs, which totals the project to $24,865,000 roughly. And after our assumed 30% down payment for our 70% loan to value ratio, we'll be closing at 2%, bringing the internal capital needed to $12,300,000 and exactly. Pause. So with that said, after the debt service, we will be able to have around an assumed selling at a 6 cap. We should be having $27 million in equity after our debt service, which feeds into this. This is how we'll be servicing our debt over a 20-year loan, about $870,000 a year paying off, and the interest will decrease over time. Bringing our first year will be a loss of money. The following years will be slowly but surely moving up, and then adding on the equity, we'll be able to sell it at a 6 cap. We're going to base it off of this, an 18% IRR after adding all this together, with the equity multiplier 3.63, about $16 million in profit.
Okay, so in summary, our recommendation is to require the neighboring parcels and entitle the property to a 162-unit multifamily development with attractive amenities. To do this requires the conversion of zoning to a planned development alternative and results in what we believe is the highest and best use for this property.
And now we open the floor for questions and discussion from the judges.
How did you determine your market rents for your pro forma feasibility?
We looked at other neighboring rents on Zillow. You also.
So I'll speak to that a little bit more. So our approach was to look at the square footage that we would be offering for each unit, and then run a comparative analysis on what the rent price has been for the last like 90 days for those units. We made them a little bit more conservative than what things are renting for inside of that area. For example, like a luxury studio apartment that's only like about 600 square feet can rent like 2,500 a month, but as a new development, we wouldn't be able to get that price. So we decided to price one that was a similar square footage at 1,900. But we do understand that there is definitely fluctuation in the market. We do also see that the market is softening. So that was kind of our thought process behind that.
Okay.
So we kind of just took the median, we took the average rent, factoring in the highest and the lowest.
So what was the median rent per square foot?
I can go back to the statistical analysis slide. That's a great question.
I guess I missed that, I'm sorry.
No, that's what we have.
Okay, so right here, you can see the sales price, the minimum was 370, the median about 50th percentile 700,000, and the mean, which is the average, 802,000 and some.
Can you go to the
But
rentals?
is that a house sale in the neighborhood, or is that a?
This one?
That is
Yes,
house
this
sale.
one?
That is house sale, so that wouldn't be the, for the.
Yeah, I think you guys are on the sales tab, which this is actually very good data right here. This analysis was very good. The next chart was kind of, I think there was just some noise in your data, because that's just,
No, not
but then go on a couple of slides.
Yeah,
I think
to
you have
this
the rent
element.
analysis.
There,
here.
that's
Yeah.
the rent.
This one.
Thanks.
I mean, you guys hit upon, one thing would be nice to see is the rent per square foot, because you hit upon in your presentation that square footage, there's a direct comparison or linkage between square footage and what people pay. And then it would have been nice to see that, because to your own, what you just said, the studios, they get a higher rent per square foot than a larger unit. So it'd be nice to see the breakdown there just on a square foot basis.
Right, to have the rationality behind the numbers. I appreciate that feedback, thank you. Any more questions?
Where did you come up with the construction price?
Just assumed, did some searching, talked around different developers, and I forgot to include the overall heated area is 140,400 square feet, so multiplying that by $150 per square foot for development in inner city, and then parking garage is less than that, also is not included in the FAR, so.
The garage, you had, what was the size of the spaces?
Like 10 feet by 10 feet, I believe it was.
He gets half a car.
That's all I have, yes.
What's,
10 by 20.
The smart car.
golf cart, a smart golf cart.
Okay.
Alright, quite a neat.
I would just, the only thing I would say is, I think your math comes up to like 130,000 a unit to go a four-story product, and that's probably half of what it really costs. And same with the parking deck, I think you had it at like 10 grand a space or 8 grand a space, and it's probably 25,000 a space. So I think your construction costs are half, at least, we're lucky half, maybe double that. So.
Very well.
Well, I think their rate is also underestimated too.
Yeah, no, I mean,
so
like,
it washes
but
out.
you guys did a great job, you know.
Yeah. We-
Especially adding the bird parcel, you know. I don't
will
wanna give it
say-
all away, but we did that too, so.
We will say that this has definitely been a wonderful learning experience for our team. None of us necessarily would claim that we are finance majors or that this is necessarily our wheelhouse. It has been also seeing how kind of difficult that is from somebody who's like not in the industry. So that was also very interesting, having to reach out and getting mixed answers from different places. Like, oh, it can be on this end, but then it also depends over here. So even just going through these practices and kind of getting a chance to see what you guys think on the daily and actually really getting to break down those numbers and watching our profits go down.
I realize, I mean, for us that are in the industry, it's hard to pinpoint what's going on, right? There's a lot of moving parts, but to Ryan's point, construction's all over the place. You guys did an excellent job identifying kind of the financing components. 70% of cost is probably appropriate in this environment. I think you had some good assumptions there. The fact that you all had such a thoughtful analysis around the surrounding neighborhood and going through the PD process, like, was very well done. So this is not an easy exercise, and those of us that are experts that do this every day, we can't pinpoint. That's why it takes a ton of time and energy. So excellent work.
Yeah, I looked at photos and the images, the streets, street views, and then I just wanted to do a curtain thing. I didn't want to do that little move.
Any other questions?
All right, thank you.
Without the generous support and guidance from Dr. Wedge and Mr. Santosh, so thank you so much. We also want to recognize all of our judges and thank you for taking time out of your very, very busy schedules to invest in us as upcoming real estate professionals. So thank you.